Hello and welcome everyone to episode 42 of Aurelia. We started the Island City project last time, which is this structure in the middle of the lake. It is divided into 6 main parts, 4 residential arms, the central square, and the 5th arm in the middle that is the main entrance. Last time we finished one of the residential arms and the main square, which also is a public transport hub. Today we will focus on the entrance to the Island City, which needs to be on this arm facing the rest of Aurelia. It needs to have an entrance for trains, cars, pedestrians, so we need to figure it all out, detail it, and just make it look really good. You could have seen in the previous episode that I tried to make the Island City very symmetrical. When we built the first residential arm, I even just built like one half of it and then copy-paste it with Move It to the opposite side. Using obviously the new functionality of Move It, which is the mirror. Now, that's pretty much what I did with, for example, the pedestrian paths, I think, for the central square. But even the central square is very, very symmetrical. All the things that are on one half are on the other one as well. But in this entrance arm, I've decided that we're going to break the symmetry. And I think it's going to complement actually the symmetrical areas nicely. And it's just going to be something interesting in this place. So, you know, it's just something different. That's all. Now, this place needed to combine, like I already said, it needs to combine the trains, the road, and some sort of pedestrian access as well. Now, that's kind of a lot of things to make it symmetrical. Otherwise, if I really wanted to make it symmetrical, I would probably need to put all of it on top of each other. I guess the train tracks on top, then the road, maybe something like this on the sides, maybe pedestrian paths, you know, some things like that. But it felt not exactly all that great, and not to mention that this place is actually not that tall. The orange roof is not all that super tall, so I couldn't really fit road and on top of that road some tracks to make it look good. Now, I could do that, but I would need to go through the middle of this place. Now, that's obviously where we have the opening with the orange roof. That's where we build, let's say, some sort of a smaller plaza with the trams for the residential arm. Now, this arm, I'm pretty sure it's identical with, in regards to the model of the orange building. So it's pretty much the same size. Now, in the last episode, we did put a symmetrical tracks through the middle, but we made them, sunken so that it's more or less 5 meters, let's say, underneath the orange roof, something like that. But if I wanted to make the trains go over the road through the center, then it would be a lot higher, which means that no place reserved for the pedestrians could be possible in the middle. So that's the reasoning to put the train tracks asymmetrically like this underneath one half of the orange roof, and so that the tracks are completely covered, and you're basically only going to see the trains enter the Island City, go underneath the roof, and then they are going to appear in the central square in that train station in the middle, right? Now, there's also this one thing, very, very important thing actually. I really do want to start planning for some videos where I'm going to do like a train rides, right? So I'm going to follow a train from its perspective as it goes through Aurelia. This particular line, it goes from the Island City all the way back into the industrial zone. So it loops around the downtown somewhat and goes into the industrial zone. It's a super long line. And it looks really, really good when it goes through the downtown. And it looks even good when it goes to the Island City as well. And actually even the industrial area. It just looks all the way, it just looks good, on the entire thing. So I really want to do something like that. But if I want to do a video like that, then I obviously need to make sure that on every path, or every piece of track the train goes, it looks good from the perspective of the train. It looks good, right? That's obviously a bit of a problem if you go with the trains underneath some of these structures that are made with procedural objects. Well, not even procedural objects, but just these kinds of detailing projects, let's call it, because it might not always look all that great underneath from all this, from behind the scenes. It might not look all that great. So I need to make sure that whatever you can see from the perspective of the train actually looks all right and believable, let's call it. So that's the reasoning for doing the tunnel for putting the tracks actually inside a tunnel. I'm obviously using all these different networks for trains from the railway replacement mod pack or something. I'm still not sure how the mod is called. A railway replacer, I think. Yeah, that's right, probably. So they have this tunnel network that's just an ordinary concrete tube for the trains, but it looks really good. And the most important thing is that it's modeled inside, which means that it's not just the vanilla, just blackness inside the tunnel and nothing inside it, really. If you follow the train, then there's just clipping into the terrain. But this tunnel is modeled and it looks really, really good from the inside. So that's why I was putting the lights inside the tunnel. It was very dark inside the tunnel because there's also this thing with this particular model that the lighting just goes very, very down. So that's why I put those lights there, and just to make it really, really good. Now, in the next phase for this, I will still need to detail somewhat the places around the train station in the central square, because if you were to look at it from below, the surfaces that I did in the previous episode, if you were to look at it from below, then you won't see anything, because all of these surfaces, all the pavement tiles that I'm putting in here, they only have the texture visible from the top, but from the bottom it's completely see-through, right? You don't see anything. There is nothing in there. So that's something that I will really need to figure out how to do. Probably procedural objects and just rotating it around, something like that. But I really want to make these things look really good from the perspective of the train, so that we can just look at it, from all kinds of angles, right? So again, that's the reasoning for putting the tunnel in there. And it also created more issues than it would otherwise have, because the tunnel structure, the block of the tunnel, is obviously like a tube inside, but it's like a square shape from the outside, right? And it's very big. It's much bigger than the tube inside. So it clips through the orange roof. You could have seen that in some of these time-lapse shots, right? And that was a bit of a problem. I already had to put the train station in the square lower, quite a lot lower actually, so that at least the cables are not clipping through the orange roof in here. But it was still not enough, and the concrete structure for the tunnel was clipping through the orange roof. So, what to do with that? Well, it was quite easy actually, because all that was necessary was to just cover it with something. And since the entrance arm of the island was already asymmetrical, I just decided to put some sort of a green area on top of that orange roof on that one half of the arm, right? And it's actually not looking all that bad. It's actually looking quite good. Later in the time lapses, I'm going to obviously decorate it with some different paths, benches, and all those kinds of nice places that people can just visit and just, stay there, look at the lake or something like that. So that place is actually going to look really good. And it also allowed me to have that tunnel in there because, like I said, it was clipping through the orange roof. So we had to cover it with something. And that park just felt like a really good thing to do. Now, this is also something very important. This place, we needed to figure out the road entrance into the city. I really wanted to have that road go completely straight into the island from this intersection. Now, this intersection and, well, not really the intersection, it's not all that super interesting, but the places around this intersection are probably going to be the topic of the next video because I really, really want to push the completion for this train tracks so that everything around the entire line, all the way from the island city to the industrial zone, are finished as soon as we can finish it, because I really look forward to making some kind of a train ride for this particular line, because I think it's going to look really, really good. It already looks really good when it goes through the downtown, so we just need to make sure that it's finished in these places as well. So in the next episode, like I said, we are going to build that little place, from this road into the city, right? There's also going to be another train station there, like a little tiny stop. It's probably going to be some sort of a low density residential area. Well, not that low, but it's probably going to be lower than usual. So, that's like a project that also needs to happen, and it's just going to be a nice break from the island city as well. But we are obviously going to return to the island city in the future as well, because we still have how many? 3 residential arms to finish, and we also need to do some connections between all those places and just need to wrap it up. So the island project is definitely not going to end, and it's going to continue for quite a lot more episodes still. All right, so let's finally get to what's exactly happening in this entrance arm. What's going on? What am I building here? So this place is divided into quite a lot of levels. I didn't plan that at first, but it just sort of happened, right? As with pretty much all the projects that I do, some things just happen. So this place is divided into how many? The road, the first, second, 4 levels. I think it's 4 levels. Yeah, 4 levels where pedestrians can go. If they want to enter the island city, then they first need to follow the path that goes along the road, the car road, right? Now, then they will arrive at the tiny little incline, the pedestrian path that goes to the first level for the pedestrians, right? So probably the second level, I should probably call it, right? So that's the place where there's the administration building. I think it's called administration building. It's the building that I put on the side of this place where the train tracks are, right? I obviously had to do it as procedural objects again, because it was clipping inside the tunnel, so I had to just make it, shaped so that it doesn't show in the train tunnels. I had to cut it a bit inside, but you won't really see it from these perspectives anyway. Yeah, it's the building there on the right. Now, that building also had this very strange, well, not strange, but normal looking cover. Yeah, you can see it right here. The cover over the entrance, like a little roof over the entrance. And since I already had this building as procedural object, I decided to just stretch this roof and make it into some sort of a bridge that's going to be an entrance from the third pedestrian level, into, let's say, the second floor of that administration building. So it's going to be all connected into each other. And there's also going to be pedestrian paths, like real functional pedestrian paths going over that bridge inside the building. It's going to be quite interesting. Unfortunately, there's not that many people walking there just yet, but you will definitely see some people walking there in the cinematics. I prepared special shots where you can see all the paths being used. So hopefully that's going to turn out looking good. Now, if people are on that level, they can obviously reach that level by using the stairs that you could have seen. Well, the only stairs in this area. You probably could have seen them in the time lapses. And if they obviously can't use the stairs, then there's probably elevators in all those buildings around, right? And that's going to be the last level of this plaza, let's call it. And then there's going to be the building that I placed in the middle of that square. I'm not sure if I can describe it correctly so that you know what I'm talking about, but it's the building in the middle of that cut in the orange roof. You probably know which one I mean. And I'm treating that building as some sort of an elevator building, let's call it, so that people are going to walk inside it and they're going to exit that building on the next level. And that is the level which has the same height as the central square. And it's just a long way all the way to the central square. I'm later probably going to do something more on that little, well, actually not so little, on that long path all the way to the central square, probably some buildings around it as well, obviously underneath the orange roof. When the orange roof starts going up, then obviously we have some room underneath that roof, so we can put some commercial buildings probably, or some things like that, right? And you can see it actually in here. I was putting the pedestrian path through that place. It was actually not all that super difficult, that pedestrian path. It's pretty much just one way going through the entire place, but it's obviously twisting a lot so that I'm slowing people down when they walk through that place. So in the cinematics, it just looks like it's just creating the illusion that people are walking all around this area. Now, all this path obviously leads, like I said, into the main square. So that's exactly what that path was connecting to. Now, again, just like in the previous episode, we need to put some fake buildings underneath the orange roof and make it so that people can live here or shop here, work here, whatever, and make all these procedural object buildings functional. So I'm using this path, this road, so that all these buildings that I'm going to put here are functional. Now, I'm going to connect that road with the pedestrian path, like you can see here, and later I'm going to put the blank buildings in here. Those are the little green cubes that I'm using for pedestrian buildings. They're like fake pedestrian buildings. Pedestrian buildings? What am I saying? No, just buildings. Residential buildings. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, but I'm building pedestrian paths, right? And also, as you can see here, I'm also putting one road inside this administration building. Now, obviously, it's not an administration building in here. It's probably some sort of a shop, let's say, like a mall, maybe, or maybe it could have been an office building, maybe some sort of I don't know, some offices for the island city. I'm not exactly sure, but there's probably not going to be residential buildings in this place if it was built in real life, I say. Let's say then there's probably not going to be residential buildings in here because there's probably going to be some more offices and shops and all that. But I am putting residential blanks in here, those little cubes, because I don't have any others. So that's you know, just something that we need to do, but it's not exactly accurate. I don't think that that place would have residential buildings. Everything would probably be just offices or shops, right? So it might have been a bit confusing seeing that, seeing the place without the orange roof. Now, like I said in the previous episode, if you have something with the procedural objects built as procedural object, then you can group it into some sort of a layer, and that layer you can make invisible. So that's very convenient then for you to make things happen inside of these structures. That's exactly what I'm having right here. I'm putting these railings in here, and obviously I wouldn't be able to see them because there's the orange roof, but I turned it off for doing this. You can see that there's just the white outline because I didn't turn that off, so that I can see where the roof ends, right? And how it's going to be visible from the normal perspective, let's say. And you could have actually seen a few pedestrians already using that bridge right there. Right, so like I said, this place is not really going to see that many pedestrians. Actually, I'm not sure if I said that already, but this place is not going to see that many pedestrians. I think that it's going to be made better when we finally build quite a lot of buildings around the island city, so that the shops and offices in the island city will have some traffic from outside of the island city. Right now, everyone just arrives by the train and they all go to the central square, and then they probably take the trams or something and go to the rest of this area, or well, to the first residential arm that we finished. Obviously, we didn't finish anything else right now, but there's not that much traffic from outside the island city just yet. But like I said, when all the places around the island city, all around the lake, are going to be finished, there's probably going to be quite a lot of people even using these plazas, these paths, these entrances to the island city. That's kind of obvious that that people are going to be walking there. But like I said, there's still some people walking there, just so you can see how the pedestrian paths are made, how they function. So you're gonna see that in the cinematics. But anyway, we are almost done because I'm just putting down trees, some decorations. We need to do also surfaces. In the end, I decided that the second level is going to be just concrete because it has some rounded rounded shapes, and that would not be all that super easy to build the surfaces in there, decals as surfaces, obviously. So I decided to just leave it like that. Put some tiles on the third level. You can obviously see them. Those are the black and white tiles. And this fourth level, the level that obviously goes to the central square, it has the same exact concrete tiles as the central square already had from the previous episode, right? So it obviously makes the connection. It's obviously it fits, right? It fits, right? Anyway, that's almost all for this episode. I'm just going to do some tiny little detailing for this green park area, putting down some of these decals as path, some benches, some decorations, flowers and bushes and all those kinds of things. So that's gonna be all. Thank you guys for watching episode 42 of the Aurelia city. I hope you liked it. If you did, then you can always put a thumbs up underneath the video, share the video with your friends if you think they might like it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I will see you with some next videos. Take care and goodbye.